I'm Father Terrance, and we're going to talk about today boundaries. A boundary is a line that should not be crossed in regards to our relationships with others. And when it's crossed, there's a consequence that should be enforced. Personal boundaries are like fences. They protect us from wrong people, wrong places, wrong priorities. They help me to take responsibility for my life and set limits on what I will do and what I won't do, on what I will and will not accept, and also on what's right and what's not right in God's eyes. Personal boundaries also guard you from giving more than you should, and they protect you from people taking more than they should from you. They make it possible to enjoy mutual give and take within a healthy relationship. Having healthy boundaries is a balance between caring for others and for yourself. Boundaries are not selfish or unloving or unchristian. We can be generous with our time and attention without having to be available to everyone for everything all the time, and without feeling guilty for telling people no or asking people to respect our space and our limits. Here are 14 basic boundaries for relationships. Number 1, treat each other with respect in words and actions and attitudes. Number 2, learn to listen. So learn to hear what the other person is saying and consider your own words before you speak. Number 3, speak truthfully to each other. So don't lie or be deceptive. Number 4, be aware of oversharing and undersharing in our interactions with others, even though undersharing is technically not a word. So sharing more than is asked for or more than is appropriate, or not sharing enough. Healthy relationships have a healthy balance between those two. Number 5, be able to say yes and no, yes or no, without feeling guilty or needing to give lengthy justifications for everything. Number 6, when necessary, work on being able to give and accept corrections while refraining from insincere compliments. Number 7, when necessary and appropriate, confront the other person with love, grace, humility, and truth. Number 8, learn to express anger in a helpful, not in a hurtful way. Number 9, take responsibility for what you've done wrong and forgive others for what they've done wrong. Whether or not we reconcile with someone depends on their sincere repentance, on their actions and their commitment to change, or commitment to truly work on overcoming their destructive character traits, and on what we are willing and able to reasonably tolerate as well. Number 10, encourage one another with your words and perhaps with emotional support and spiritual support by praying together. Number 11, if you're married, work on practicing mutual submission. So not that one partner dominates the other, but that the two try to work together as one. Number 12, whenever possible, we should remove ourselves from abusive situations. Number 13, it's not wise to stay in a relationship if either of us is negatively influencing the other. So how far you carry that if you're married depends on the circumstances of the situation and also the people involved too. Number 14, be able to distinguish between professional relationships and more personal and familial relationships. So what's appropriate with friends and family versus what's appropriate with acquaintances or mentors or other people. Remember that we can't force someone to be closer to us than they want to be or feel that it's appropriate to be. Our lives, our personal space, and our hearts are kind of like our home. People who come into our lives, like those who come into our homes, should be welcomed in and invited in. They shouldn't try to force their way in. But once they're in, they should have the courtesy of respecting our space and who we are. When boundaries are respected, then there is a reward. When a boundary is rejected, the result is a consequence or a repercussion. When you communicate a clear, rightful boundary, with a reward and a repercussion, and someone violates that boundary, the consequence should follow. When choosing to violate a boundary, it's the violator, not the boundary setter, who is choosing the repercussion. What are some examples of broken boundaries with appropriate consequences? Well, if we're a parent and money is misused by our teenager, appropriate consequence would be that they have to reimburse the money, and further money is withheld until the responsible use of money is actually reestablished or established. How about if we find that someone has been lying to us? Well, an appropriate consequence would be to withhold trust, so know that they are not trustworthy, and verify future information that they give until the offender proves that honesty has become a priority for them. What about if someone uses abusive language when speaking to us? Well, an appropriate consequence would be that interaction with them stops and we part ways until civility in conversations can be respected and honored. We need to be respectful and mature in how we speak to each other, and that needs to be communicated to them. What about if someone expresses or exhibits inappropriate anger? Well, an appropriate consequence would be that the causes for their loss of control need to be explored and resolved, perhaps through counseling. Anger management needs to be learned and demonstrated over time, so we have to actually see a change in them for our relationship to improve. What about if you have a friend who doesn't respect a time schedule? Well, an appropriate consequence might be after waiting for a reasonable, previously agreed upon time, I'll wait 20 minutes for you. We'll meet together later on. We'll reschedule our meeting. I'm not going to wait forever. And when establishing boundaries, the repercussions should be clearly stated. The goal of repercussions is not punishment, but it's to promote respect, trust, courtesy, and appreciation by honoring appropriate boundaries. What would be a right core belief and a wrong core belief with people regarding boundaries? Well, a wrong core belief would be if I set boundaries, I'll push people away and never get the love and approval I need to feel good about myself. I just want to feel accepted and secure in my relationships. A right core belief would be this: I need to set beneficial boundaries, not to live for the approval of others. This will help me establish healthy relationships and will help model for others how to treat people appropriately. Because my secure relationship is in the Lord, my security is in Him, I know that I am unconditionally loved and accepted. So I don't need to live for the acceptance of others to the detriment of my own sense of self-worth. So let's give a character sketch of someone who has bad boundaries with others. Well, you define yourself based on what others say or feel about you, and you do almost anything for their acceptance. You're afraid to confront because you fear people won't agree with you, leaves you with a sense of feeling inferior to others. You isolate yourself in order to minimize exposure to the offender, so you begin to see yourself as a victim, right? You have difficulty trusting people, so you rarely communicate anything of depth, and you don't rely on counsel from anyone. You are enmeshed in relationships, but you lack true intimacy. You retreat within yourself, concealing your inmost feelings and feel unsafe confronting, so you keep your guard up, believing no one actually genuinely cares for you. When finally confronting an offender, you tend to stumble and become inconsistent, even rigid. When challenged, easily to overreact, over-explain things. You may use boundaries as a weapon against others to exert power over them. You may deceive them through lies and half-truths to keep them off balance, to keep them at a distance. You cannot understand how your offender could actually wrong you, so you simply say, well, I just can't do anything about it, I guess. You don't enforce a consequence or repercussion for negative behavior. Therefore, the offender, who's demonstrated untrustworthy character, continues to cause more painful consequences. You're misled each time thinking that the offender won't do it again, but it keeps happening again and again. So here's a character sketch of someone who has healthy boundaries with others. You define yourself based on God's personal love and acceptance of you. Therefore, you're not controlled by other people. Affected, yes, but not controlled. You're not afraid to confront respectfully when you know or sense that it needs to be done. You form relationships based on respectful communication. Not everyone is trustworthy, right? But you do have a few trustworthy friends that you can rely on for counsel. You may have acquaintances, many of them, but choose to only be totally open and transparent with just a few people who have proven themselves to be safe, those who you know have your best interests at heart. And when confronting others, you know how to be consistent, calm, respectful, firm, straightforward, assertive. When challenged, you know how to stay centered and succinct. You use boundaries as a safeguard, not as a weapon. They show your desire to maintain a healthy, honest, God-honoring relationship. You can identify how the offender has chosen wrong, confront them, state a boundary. Then you share a reasonable consequence that will be enforced if the offense is repeated. And you enforce consequences, and if no change occurs, it might be wise to consider discontinuing the relationship if possible. You reward positive change of behavior with encouraging compliments to help the relationship flourish. Question: should I always confront someone if they cross a line in regards to personal boundaries or if they don't respect me? Well, the answer is I don't think you're obliged to always do that, but we do need to evaluate the nature of the relationship and discern if it's possible to improve it, if it's worth trying to improve it, if it's wise to do so, or if it's not wise, and maybe it's just better to move on and put some healthy distance between us and the other person. In short, it requires discernment. It also requires knowing yourself as well. Some people can be overly zealous in confronting and asking for clarity on all things or everything or a bunch of things, and that pushes people away. Other people can be overly reluctant to confront, and it means that they can feel trapped in relationships or people can just take advantage of them. As with most things, the virtue is somewhere in between those two extremes of excessively confronting or excessively avoiding confrontation. What about a 10-point plan for success with boundaries? So you need to pray and plan. You need to pray to the Lord for wisdom and help and strength, and have a plan to help you gain proper control of your life. First point, admit that you have a problem with boundaries and that you need a solution. Number 2, note the areas where your current boundaries are weak and need to be reinforced. Number 3, prioritize the people with whom you want to or need to set boundaries, and identify the situations in which you need to set limits, and don't feel the need to address all of them all at once. You don't have to do it all at once. Number 4, have some wise people, or a few wise people, or at least some wise person who can give you counsel about appropriate boundaries and hold you accountable to set and maintain your boundaries. Number 5, be aware that there will be times when you'll want to resist the hard work of change, because setting boundaries is hard work. It requires determination, a certain strength of character. So pray for the strength to set healthy boundaries and maintain them. Number 6, learn to take care of yourself and learn that saying no is a healthy thing and a good thing if we didn't already know that. Number 7, again, don't try to set new boundaries all at once. Make small changes before addressing bigger issues. Number 8, enforce your boundaries consistently. Even when it's difficult, it's still beneficial because it's not good for others to be mistreating or disrespecting us. Number 9, face the future and resist the urge to fall back into old, unhealthy patterns. Go forward. Don't go backward in your boundaries. Number 10, prepare to see changes in your relationships with others. Your boundaries will be tested, probably initially resisted, but it's important to work on holding your ground if you want to see positive changes. In summary, healthy boundaries provide security and confidence in who we are as children of God. They provide the ability to say yes and no without the guilt or fear that can come with that. And they also provide the fences that keep us from harming each other, but allow us to love each other within a safe space, within a healthy boundary. So those are some of the key thoughts about boundaries in general. There's a lot more that can be said, obviously, and for your specific situation, you probably need more specific guidance and discernment. But if you'd like to read more about boundaries, I'd recommend Henry Cloud and John Townsend's very good book on boundaries, as well as June Hunt's very good book with the same title on boundaries. And Father Terrance, Ave Maria, please keep me in your prayers, and I will keep you in mine as well. God bless you and take care.